Hey everyone, it's Xant. It's time for the anniversary's last Sokai, and it's gonna be a doozy. As you can see from the images I'm cycling through,
I'm in danger!
this coming Sokai is pretty bad for me, because I have a weak spot for Gundam Seed. It was really the first Gundam I really sat down and got into, obviously along with Destiny, so it just has kind of a place for me nostalgically. So I look at the Strike Freedom, I look at the Infinite Justice, and it's just... I'm not gonna have Haro chips for much longer, guys. Expect me to roll during my stream. Anyways, let's dive into discussing these suits and pilots. I didn't forget the welfare pilot this time. Sokai and all. First up is the Infinite Justice, piloted by Athranzala for the latter half of Seed Destiny. It looks like the Justice, smells like the Justice, has the same paint job as the Justice, and it pretty much is the Justice. I bet you thought I was going to say something else, weren't you? Long story short, it's an upgraded Justice with many of the changes being under the hood, from being customized using Athranzala's combat data to having the newest SAF technology like variable phase shift armor included. This version of the Justice deserves the Infinite prefix. It also happens to come loaded with more weapons, and everyone likes more weapons. Now, the actual development history of the Infinite Justice is sketchy at best, but best assumption is this machine was originally being designed by Xant until the Junius Treaty came into effect at the end of Seed. At that point, development was halted and shelved alongside its sibling suit. At some point, the Klein faction, or some other Archangel-aligned faction, stole the data, began developing the suit, and then loaded it with Athranzala's combat data. This would explain why there's so much SAF technology in the machine, but this also isn't canon, so take it with a grain of salt. All we do know is that this is the only suit Lacus Clyne was ever seen piloting, as she brought it through the atmosphere to deliver to Athran. I guess it was willed into existence or something. Now, let's talk weapons. The Infinite Justice comes with two CIWS turret sets, one is located in the head and one in the torso. Two beam sabers, they can be combined at the pommel, a beam rifle, a beam shield, and this can actually be mounted with a grapple stinger, a claw to grab things or ram, or a beam boomerang. Two beam blades, these are installed on the legs and can be used offensively or defensively. It just generates a beam between pretty much just under the kneecap and above the foot. Much like the original Justice, this also has a Fatum back unit. This one is 0-1 instead of 0-0. The Fatum has two beam cannons. It has two beam blades. These are mounted on the wings. And the following are only available when the Fatum is detached. A beam saber on the nose, which is used for ramming things, and two beam sabers mounted on the back of the beam cannons, also for ramming. So, they did improve the backpack unit a little bit, gave it a little more firepower and stuff on it. The Infinite Justice can also make use of the Meteor weapon platform, which was seen mainly during the final engagements in Seed and Destiny. I assume it'll end up as a Cutscene X, but we'll see. Now you may have noticed the Infinite Justice was designed to focus on more close-range engagements, what with all the B melee weapons, and there's a reason for that. It's actually the sibling suit of our other Sokai machine this month, which I'm now going to segue into. Strike Freedom, also from Seed Destiny, but piloted by Kira Yamato. Unlike the Infinite Justice, we actually do have some tidbits about its development. The Strike Freedom was being developed alongside the Freedom, but the Dragoon system in the back wings caused severe delays. Before they could be hammered out, the Junius Treaty came into effect and development was halted. Before it could be resumed, an allied faction, much like with the Infinite Justice, stole what they could regarding the suit and nuked the original data, effectively killing progress unless it was started from scratch by Xant. Now, again, stuff related to the Infinite Justice isn't canon, but because this is canon for the Strike Freedom, it's assumed it's the same for the Infinite Justice, the whole sibling suit stuff. Now, the Strike Freedom was a menace on the battlefield, being able to practically solo an entire platoon without difficulty, on top of disabling multiple warships at the same time. I think that was mostly due to the pilot's plot armor, but even then, this was easily one of, if not the most advanced suit on the field. The Strike Freedom comes loaded with a CIWS turret set in the head, a multi-phase beam cannon in the chest, two beam shields, one on each arm, two beam sabers, and much like the Infinite Justice, these can also be combined at the pommel, 2 railguns, they're the exact same as the Freedoms, they're just upgraded. 2 beam rifles, and 8 Super Dragoon units. These are the wing blades. They can fire beams or generate beam blades on the tip for close combat, so they're pretty flexible. As the counterpart to the Infinite Justice, the Strike Freedom is more geared towards ranged engagement and bombardment. As a neat tidbit, unlike most mobile suits, even the frame joints have phase shift, and the active phase shift color of them is gold. That's why you see little gold parts in the elbows, feet, and hand joints. All I can say, looking at our 2 Sokai suits, is pray for our Haro. May they rest in peace. Our welfare this week is the Grey's Ein, coming from Iron-Blooded Orphans and piloted by Ein Dalton. It's an IBO event, boys and girls. A prototype mobile suit fielded by Gallarhorn, this mobile suit was created to test the connection between pilot and Alaya Vijnana system, and improve upon it, but was left forgotten after Gallarhorn failed to find a pilot willing to undergo the surgery needed for the system's connectors. Designed for terror-based combat, this mecha had a brief appearance in the IBO anime, but during that short showing managed to completely defeat the Ryusei Go, among some other suits, and actually required Mikazuki to put it down for good. Quite the formidable Greys. So what did it actually bring? Well, it had 2 machine guns, they were shoulder-mounted, 2 large axes that could be optionally put on the back, 4 drill appendages, the hands and the feet could transform and turn into drills pretty much, and it was used for special attacks when, getting in close. And 2 pile bunkers. These were mounted underneath each forearm. They were one-time use only. After they were used, they would just disconnect from the machine. This suit was actually pretty unique in the IBO universe, as to my knowledge, it was the only machine to ever have a biological CPU in it. Don't worry, I'll explain that in a moment. Our welfare pilot this event is Ein Dalton, pilot of the previously discussed Grey's Ein. He joined Gallarhorn at a young age, coming under the command of Crank Xant, and slowly gained experience as a student of his. Eventually, he ended up witnessing Crank get killed by the Barbados after losing a duel, birthing his seething rage towards Tekadon. He befriended Galio Baudouin, who he later sacrificed himself for in a fight against the Barbados. After receiving life-saving surgery in the form of the Alaya Vijnana system, he was permanently installed into the Grey's Ein as a biological CPU, and the suit was named after him. This granted Ein an absurd amount of control over his machine, literally being merged with it 24/7. In this new form, he managed to easily overpower the Ryusei Go and other mobile suits, even overpowering Mikazuki, albeit briefly. He unfortunately lost out to his rage towards Tekadon for killing Crank, and ended up dead for good this time. Nah, I'm just kidding. He was integrated into the Alaya Vijnana Type E, which was installed into the Vidar. You may remember I touched on that when I talked about that machine. And this granted it Alaya Vijnana capabilities without the side effects. Then when that was destroyed, he was finally gone. Man literally too angry to die, I guess would be the headline for him. Now, onto our gacha pilots. We'll open with Mikhail Kaminsky from War in the Pocket. A member of the elite Xeon team, Cyclops, this career soldier was part of Operation Rubicon, where he was the decoy during the attempted theft or destruction of Gundam Alex. There really isn't much else about the man, as he failed in his mission after being turned into Swiss cheese by the Alex. Rip the casual drunk. He did try his best during the raid though. Our final pilot this week is Puru 2, a cyber new type from Gundam Double Z. Another clone of Puru, she was originally a weapon of Glemmy Todo and followed his every order without question. However, her repeated exposure to new types in combat eventually had her change allegiance, unfortunately just a bit too late as she died shortly after. As a pilot though, she was able to kill her progenitor and fight Judao Ashta to a standstill multiple times. As I always say, if you can fight the protagonist to a standstill or gain an advantage, you're pretty amazing. Then again, I guess if you're a living weapon, that's to be expected. Anyways, with that, we've wrapped up all the new content coming this week. Hopefully you guys are excited for the new suits and pilots. This is the last week of the anniversary content, so I'd expect the revival banners and bullseye stuff to stop sometime soon. Shame really, those were amazing value-wise. Peace out guys, and I'll see you in a couple of days for the standard impression stream.